Thank you for attending this required webinar for CE sponsors hosting a self-study ethics CE program. We'd like to introduce ourselves. My name is Matthew Hughes, Continuing Education Administrator.
And I'm Joanna Truitt, Manager for Continuing Education and Experience.
We anticipate our webinar today to be about 20 minutes. Before we get started, we have one housekeeping note. If you have a question you'd like to ask, please type it into the Q&A text box on the right-hand side of the screen. We will address all questions at the end of the presentation. During this webinar, we will do a final review of the requirements for self-study ethics CE, discuss the details about the final program assessment, share the rubric we'll use to determine if your self-study programs meet the criteria, and go over program fees, content updates, and the program lifecycle. As always, we will leave time for questions and answers at the end. So let's get started. Since the inception of this project 18 months ago, we've continually communicated the accepted formats and requirements for self-study delivery of ethics CE. As you prepare to develop your self-study program, we want to reiterate our expectation that the program be delivered online, be highly interactive, and meet the balance of requirements for forced progression and access to the assessment. Just as a reminder, all current ethics programs are set to expire on September 30th. Completion dates after September 30th will not upload and be identified as an attendance reporting error. We are asking that you complete all attendance reporting for these programs by Friday, October 19th. After this date, regardless of completion date, the system will not recognize the program ID number. While we hope to have all new programs live by October 1st, we understand if you need more development time to achieve this goal. Please build 3 to 5 business days into your schedule for us to do our program review. Hopefully by now you all have downloaded and reviewed the applicable materials from the private page. All content, instructions, and guides can be found here. We tried to anticipate and provide what you might need to ensure your program was not only compliant, but designed to engage the participant. In the future, as we have ethics-related announcements or content updates, we will notify you by email of their availability and point you to the page as applicable.
No one can accuse CFP Board of not providing enough content. With the adoption of the new code and standards, we could not have picked a better time to introduce this new delivery model. As we progress through this webinar, we will touch base on each of the documents you have available to you. To begin, we anticipate the program you're going to be creating to be about 110 minutes in length. For those of you who have reviewed the CE Sponsor Guide for Self-Study Programs, you noticed included a timed agenda. This agenda is proximate and meant to be used as a guide. We've requested that your program be interactive. The pop-up questions, which can be found under the Self-Study Program Materials section, and the vignettes, found under the Required Content section, have been designed for you to incorporate into the program. They are categorized by learning objective, but can be configured in a way that fits within the overall program design. They do not pertain to any particular case study or anonymous case history. They do, however, help illustrate how the new code and standards can be applied. Under the Self-Study Program Materials section, we have a CE Sponsor Guide with information specific to you, best viewed online as it contains links within the table of content that will make it easier for you to navigate from section to section. Much of this content reinforces what you already know related to delivery requirements, the assessment, and the program evaluation. I'm sure by now you've noticed there is no link on the private page to the assessment question bank. The assessment package will be emailed directly to the main sponsor contact or another person you identify to us. Like the other materials supporting this program, it will include instructions for use of the content. And last, the CE Sponsor Guide also includes a template for a proposed program evaluation. We are requesting you incorporate the black and white CFP board logo as seen in the upper right-hand side of this slide, somewhere into your course design. We can use your selection of program title in the presentation. The presentation content is presented in PowerPoint format for 3 reasons. First, for those presenting this program live, we want our instructors to focus on delivery. The PowerPoint is organized following best practices, which leads to our second reason. An instructor presenting Ethics CE Live can, with little effort, personalize a presentation while maintaining the format and be ready to present. And last, knowing that you'd be reformatting this content to fill your online program design, we figured this was the best way to present the information to you in an organized fashion without offering several versions of the same material. As it relates to your course build, you are free to design the presentation as you would normally your other programs. This means content can be spread over a number of views or clicks. It can be reformatted, pop-up questions can be interjected, click boxes can be designed to reveal additional information about a specific topic. As long as the content is presented in an organized manner, the design of the content is up to you. The instructor notes have been purposefully constructed to provide full context for the slide material. These notes should be used to explain the material presented on the individual slides. The slide content serves as a prompt for an explanation of greater detail. We've requested that your program be interactive. The pop-up questions and the vignettes have been designed for you to incorporate into the program. As mentioned earlier, they are categorized by learning objective, but can be configured in a way that fits within the overall program design. Please refrain from adding additional content. This is not to say that we aren't open to you creating vignettes or even pop-up questions, but just remember any new content you'd like to introduce will need to be reviewed in advance of it being incorporated into the program. And we do promise a quick turnaround time in our review. As a final reminder, please use forced progression through the program. Participants should not have the ability to skip content or activities. Access to the final assessment should only be available after the program has been completed. The assessment requirements for ethics now align with our self-study requirements. It will be 20 questions with a passing score of 70. The 20-question requirement will not change in 2019 when we move to a minimum of 5 questions per credit hour. We feel the number of questions required fits the need to ensure CFP professionals understand the application of the new code and standards. Where possible, we are asking you to randomize assessment questions with each attempt. We do understand that some systems don't have the flexibility to hold the correct response and explanation until after the assessment has been passed. That's okay if the other functionality is achieved. Please limit failed attempts to 3 before the participant is required to review the content. As indicated earlier, we would like to distribute the final assessment package to all of you tomorrow. If you'd like this package to go to someone other than the main sponsor contact, please email us with the name, title, and email address of the individual after this webinar. Like the vignettes and pop-up questions, the assessment questions have been organized by learning objective, and within the learning objective by competency. The workgroup members who developed this part of the project are very good at what they do. We have weighed each learning objective and provided the ideal number of questions from each that should appear on the assessment. While we've provided you with the information in this format, again, we acknowledge and accept that not all platforms offer the flexibility to do it by the book. We only ask that you do what you can to provide a balanced final assessment using the information we've provided as a guide. We know that many of you require an evaluation at the end of each program. Again, we also recognize that not all systems have the flexibility to require completion of evaluation before access is given to the certificate of completion. But we need to know that if asked, you can provide us with a representative sample of rating and feedback for this program. We do want to see a shift in certificate attitudes and expectations for Ethics CE. Our intent in implementing these changes is not to deliver content in the same manner we've done before. We want certificates to have a more meaningful and engaging experience. And the only way we can tell if we're approaching this goal is through the comments and ratings they provide on a program evaluation. Access to the certificate of completion should be made available, as they are now, for your other programs. And our certificates appreciate your timely reporting of their completions, particularly those individuals who wait until the last possible day to complete their requirements. As we've mentioned before, Matt and I will be reviewing your online program once it is complete. Please send us a user ID and password to access and take your course. It will be evaluated on 24 points. Like our quality partner reviews, each program will need to score 45 of the 48 possible points. The bar is deliberately set high. If we assign a 0 to any evaluation point, or if there are areas marked as a 1, we will follow up with you in writing with detail. Our intent is to ensure you are offering the best quality program, not to fail the program. We will work with you every step of the way to ensure you hit the score required, which is 45. At the time we give you the green light, we'll change the initial offering date of the program. Currently, all initial offering dates are set for October 1st.
As a quick update, you will be able to renew this program in 2019 and 2020. There will be no seat license fees in 2018. As we receive participant and instructor feedback, we may make some content updates. Nothing major, only slight tweaks or clarifications. We will notify you via email when these updates are requested and available from the private page. We will also include the deadline for inclusion. Again, these will not be major and they will not require you to redo voiceovers. We will be reasonable and flexible in our expectations. The program life cycle will be for 27 months, with this version of the program expiring December 31st, 2020. We anticipate version 2 of this course to be available October 1st, 2020, so that you will have 90 days to update the program and be ready for a January 1st delivery. That ends the formal part of our presentation. We will now work through your questions. So Michael asks, can review be required after 2 tries rather than 3?
Absolutely, particularly if you already have a standard developed for your other programs. Please follow that standard. We're just setting 3 as a maximum number of attempts, failed attempts, before we ask you to require the participant to go back through the material.
Cindy asks, can the online course direct students to study a downloadable PDF in lieu of clicking through the content screen after screen, or clicking through the content screen after screen?
Actually, we're trying to move away, and that's the intent of the online course, that the program does need to be completed online. So there can be a PDF to serve as a resource, but all of the work does need to be done online, and they do need to click through the screens.
Diana asked, please explain the seat license fees.
At this point, CFP is not charging any seat license for 2019, and we'll be having some internal discussion as to whether or not that's an area we move to in 2019.
Yeah.
So we're not going to charge it in 2018,
Okay.
And we're not sure about 2019 yet. So don't worry about seat licenses. If, in fact, we do select eventually to go there, we'll provide a full explanation.
Benjamin asked, can you reiterate how the new self-study ethics program works for CFPs to take on their own time 24/7?
Well, essentially, what we found about a year or so ago is that self-study has a very broad definition, and self-study also includes, as Cindy had indicated, providing a PDF and true self-study. And what we've said is, as it relates to Ethics CE, we need this program to be online and to be interactive, meaning that into the content is interspersed, pop-up questions. The vignettes and activities are required after each learning objective or module before the individual moves on to the next. So again, by requiring that Ethics CE be done online, again, it can be done at the, at the pace of the participant, but it must in fact be done online, and the participant does have to actively participate in the activities that are built into the program.
Leslie asked, is audio required for the course, and does that include for the vignettes and pop-up questions?
We're going to leave that totally up to you. There is a tremendous amount of content, and again, as the slides, as you reviewed the slides, I'm sure that you can realize that there's typically some explanation that's required. So however you choose to deliver the content is left up to you to use as you would typically for your other programs.
Destry asked, do we need to include the yellow/gold banner or just the black and white CFP board logo box?
Just the black and white CFP logo box.
Frank asked a similar question as well. Can we brand the slides with our logo and company colors and simply retain the CFP board logo without the gold/gray CFP colors?
Absolutely. Yep. Just the black and white CFP board box.
Andy asked, just to confirm, after 3 failed exam attempts, the program is essentially reset, so the participant will need to go through all of the sections, vignettes, pop-ups, quizzes again.
Absolutely. Quite frankly, if they can't get a 70% on the 20 questions, they really need to do a course review, and we send them right back to the beginning.
Will the hours, Jonas asked, will the hours be increased since the credit hours will go from 1 per 10 questions to 1 per 5 questions?
The credit hours will stay at 2. We did have some discussion internally about the number of questions. You know, the irony of this to a certain extent is when we started pulling this program together and the outline of it about 18 months ago, we didn't have the decision that we have now to change from 10 questions per hour to 5 questions. Again, in that new policy related to the number of assessment questions, it says that we're expecting a minimum of 5 questions per credit hour, and that, in fact, the final number should be appropriate for the learning level of complexity and the topic. So we feel pretty comfortable with the 20 questions, and so, yes, you're absolutely right. By next year, that'll be above the minimum required, but we're good with that. So the course will remain 2 credit hours with a 20-question assessment.
Mike asked, will a copy of this webinar be available online?
We will PDF the slides and send them to you tomorrow morning when we send along a link to an evaluation.
Rihanna asked, what happens if the course is not approved by the CFP board by the deadline?
We really, you know, we have a lot of confidence in all of you, and again, we're looking forward to seeing these programs. Again, our intent is not to fail a course, so we'll work with you every step of the way to make sure that it gets done by the deadline. What I will say, however, is that the September 30th date for expiration of the old program is absolute. So unfortunately, there might be, you know, a short period of time in which there's not a current ethics course available.
Will you be providing, or Benjamin asked, will you be providing an example of how the interactive slides should appear?
No, we're going to, you know, leave that up to your imagination. And bless you, Matt.
Sorry.
That's all right. We're going to leave that up to your imagination and also what you've done with prior online learning courses. So again, there are a lot of different examples out there, and you know, we just need the participant to be engaged with the content in one aspect or another. Ben also asked, do you know what kind of software can be used for an interactive slides? Again, learning management systems have a lot of options available to you. Hopefully you have one that's robust enough to give you some of those options and help you build those slides fairly easily.
Frank asked, when will the final assessment questions be available?
We're going to send them out tomorrow morning.
Destry asked, are we able to modify the language slightly?
Yes. There can be some slight modification of the language. Again, everything referenced back to the code and standards, and they map pretty closely. So if you take a look at the content on the slides and do a side-by-side comparison with the code and standards, again, you'll see, you know, section A, number 2, A or 2B. So when you're doing any type of content modification, please make sure that you're taking a look at the standards so that you don't inadvertently change the meaning of a definition or the intent of the content on the slide.
Victor asked, can the presentation be in HTML or must it be in PowerPoint? Actually,
we're not making any assumptions as to what the final version is. We do expect the program to be delivered through a learning management system. I know that some of you use a slide format. Others configure your pages differently. So again, however you typically configure your online courses is what we would expect. We offered them in PowerPoint format, mostly for ease and for organization of content.
Destry asked, how long should we plan for your review of the course?
Please give us 3 to 5 business days, and we promise to follow up within that time. That seems to conclude the number or the questions that we received. One more. Have any been approved already? No, and simply because none of you have the assessment, and that's the final piece that has to be done. So we actually did have a CE sponsor send us access to their course, and to be honest with you, we haven't looked at it, and that was done purposefully, knowing that, again, once we send out the assessment, they need to configure the assessment piece of it so that we can do a comprehensive review. What I would say is that if any of you have any questions that are specific to the type of programs that you currently use or type of technology that you're using, you know, if you want to share an example with us of what you do in a current program to make sure that works or that's good, please don't hesitate to reach out. You know, we'll try to be as open and candid as possible. You know, but again, the idea is you should know your capability as it relates to offering the program online. You know, we trust in your knowledge and ability to be able to do that. We've been very clear as to what the expectations are. So again, you know, when you send us your sample, we'll let you know right away if for some reason one of the criteria or more of the criteria is not met, and we'll work with you as best we can. So seeing no other questions, I just want to thank you very much for your participation in this webinar. You know, you've heard us say it before, but we very much appreciate and enjoy our working relationship with each and every one of you. You know, and please don't hesitate to call or email us if you have questions as you progress through the process. Tomorrow, as promised, we'll be sending out the assessment package to the main point of contact. If you'd like for us to send it to someone else within your organization, just drop us an email after the program. We'll also send you the PDF of this presentation, and most likely we'll have it online within the next 7 to 10 days as well. So this ends the Self-Study Ethics webinar. Thank you.